ciò che non ha incenerazione né misura non puoi dominarlo con il ragionamento. What has neither reason nor measure in itself, you cannot rule with reasoning. Those aren't just poetic words. That was Arthur Schopenhauer grim, brilliant, and painfully honest speaking about love. The painful truth about love. It's not about you. We like to think we love rationally, that we choose our partners with purpose, with agency. But according to Schopenhauer, that belief is a charming lie. And the truth behind it is far more ancient, far more unsettling, and far less about you than you might think. Welcome to the Will to Wisdom. Today we're peeling back one of the most intimate illusions of human existence, love. Prepare yourself. This isn't a heartwarming tale. This is the philosophical autopsy of romance itself. The world as will and representation, the foundation. Before we can grasp why Schopenhauer saw love as a metaphysical deception, we need to understand the dark engine that powers his worldview. That engine is what he called the will. But first, let's start with how we even experience reality at all. In 1818, Schopenhauer published his magnum opus, The World as Will and Representation. He claimed it was all written to express a single, unifying thought. That thought, in plain terms, might be this: you don't live your life, you are being lived. Let that sink in. Schopenhauer begins with the idea that the world we experience, the trees, the streets, the people, our thoughts, our memories, not the world in itself, but rather a world of representation, Vorstellung. This world is constructed by our minds according to the principle of sufficient reason. Everything must have a reason, a cause, a purpose. But here's the kicker. This world of causes and effects, this neat little matrix we call reality, is just a projection, a filtered, limited rendering of something much deeper and stranger beneath. To reach that deeper reality, Schopenhauer turned to Kant's notion of the thing in itself, the reality behind appearances. But whereas Kant thought we could never know it, Schopenhauer made a bold leap. He claimed we can, at least in one case. That case is ourselves. You see, while I appear to myself as a body moving through space and time, just another object among others, I also experience myself from within, as a being who wants, who strives, who desires. This inner essence, this raw drive is what Schopenhauer called the will. And this is not just your personal will, like your goals or intentions. This will is impersonal, blind, eternal, a force that knows no rest, no satisfaction. It just wants for no reason, for no end. It's not directed by thought, it's not governed by logic, it's just pure craving, a hunger that feeds itself. From gravity pulling planets, to plants reaching for sunlight, to lions hunting prey, to your own pangs of longing, Schopenhauer sees all of it as the will expressing itself. And in humans, this will takes on its most intense and painful form, the will to life, Will zum Leben. This will doesn't care about you. It doesn't care if you're happy. It doesn't care if you're fulfilled. Its only concern is this: continue life at all costs. That's the stage we're standing on. And it's upon this stage that love makes its grand introncino as a gift, but as the will's most exquisite illusion. The primacy of the species. You are not the point. Most of us go through life believing we are the center of our own universe, that we love, marry, and reproduce out of personal joy, emotional connection, or a desire for meaning. But Schopenhauer grabs us by the collar and says, "Number, you are not the point. The species is." Let's unpack that. According to Schopenhauer, the will to life doesn't care about you as an individual. Your goals, your dreams, even your suffering, they're secondary. You, me, all of us were just momentary vessels, passing forms used by the will to fulfill its real objective, the continuation of the species. That's a brutal shift in perspective. Schopenhauer draws from Plato here. He argues that the species not, the individualis, the enduring idea, the timeless form trying to sustain itself through endless cycles of reproduction. Each of us is just a fleeting appearance of that form. We come and go. The species remains. Think of it like this. Nature is not sentimental. It allows countless organisms to be born and die some in agony without blinking, because nature's goal is not the happiness of the individual. It's the survival and refinement of the type. And the most cunning way nature achieves this? Through love. Love, Schopenhauer argues, is not a spiritual connection or a cosmic fate. It's the bait, the illusion, the method by which the species ensures its own future, using you as its instrument. This flips everything we believe about romance on its head. When you fall in love, when you feel that burning passion, that sense of destiny, that ache for another human being, it feels deeply personal. But Schopenhauer insists it's anything but. It's biological strategy disguised as personal desire. You are not chasing your person. You are being compelled down to your very cells to unite with someone who will, in the unconscious judgment of nature, produce an optimal next generation. It's not about your happiness, it's about nature's plan. And the more intense your passion, the more tightly the will is pulling your strings. The metaphysics of sexual love. Nature's grand illusion. Here's where Schopenhauer becomes almost surgical in his analysis. In his essay on the metaphysics of sexual love, which he called a pearl, he exposes love as the most beautiful deception nature ever invented. Ask yourself this: why does love override reason? Why does it blind us, make us suffer, compel us to take irrational risks, even destroy our lives? Why is it so all-consuming? Schopenhauer's answer: because it has to be. The will to life needs you to reproduce. But if you really understood what was happening, that your feelings were just a disguise for a reproductive command, you might resist. You might say no. So instead, nature cloaks the command in bliss, longing, beauty, and obsession. It seduces you with the illusion of perfect personal fulfillment. It makes you believe this one person will complete your soul, bring you lifelong joy, give your life meaning. But beneath that illusion lies a genetic calculus. What qualities does this person have that your offspring need? Health, symmetry, fertility, vitality. You are, without knowing it, evaluating their skeletal structure, their immune system, their youth. Schopenhauer introduces the concept of the genius of the species, an unconscious intelligence working behind the scenes, guiding your instincts, pushing you toward a partner that will produce the most successful child, not for your sake, but for the species. It's terrifyingly precise. He notes, we're drawn to people with traits that complement our own deficiency estal, to short, dark to light, strong to soft. We instinctively avoid visible deformities because the will prioritizes reproductive fitness. We feel a powerful chemistry, even with someone who doesn't meet our rational criteria, because the species doesn't care about your value set, only cares about genes. Even the gaze of lovers longing, searching, captivated us. To Schopenhauer, the genius of the species, meditating on the potential child. Romantic love, then, is not about you. It's about what can be created through you. And when that purpose is fulfilled or blocked, the illusion fades, often leaving devastation in its place. Love's blind pursuit, literature, madness, and tragedy. Let's now leave theory and look at how this idea plays out in real life and in culture. Why is love the theme of countless novels, films, operas, poems? Why does it drive people to madness, crime, and suicide? Schopenhauer believes it's because it touches the deepest layer of our being or identity, not as individuals, but as agents of the species. Take Romeo and Juliet. Two young lovers, willing to die rather than be apart. It's tragic, yes, but why does it resonate so deeply across cultures and centuries? Because it reflects the primal, irrational drive of the will. Their love is not about personal growth. It's about the species overriding everything else: family, reason, even life itself. And it's not just fiction. Schopenhauer brings up examples from real life, like Goethe, Germany's literary titan, who in his 70s lost his mind over a 17-year-old girl. He proposed marriage. She declined. He spiraled into grief, writing his Marienbad Elegy, one of the most wrenching poems of lost love. To Schopenhauer, this isn't embarrassing, it's inevitable. Even the greatest minds are subject to the species' commands. He mentions a quote from Guzman de Alfarache. It happens at that first and only sight, that inexplicable flash of recognition when you see someone and just know. Schopenhauer says this isn't fate or soulmates. It's the species whispering, "This is the one." Even comedies reflect this drama. The young lovers guided by instinct fight the older generation who care about money, status, or logic. And we root for the lovers. Why? Because unconsciously, we side with the will. We want the species to win. This is love stripped bare, not a noble pursuit, but a force ancient, blind, and relentless. After the illusion, disillusionment, and suffering. So what happens when love succeeds? When the will's purpose is fulfilled? Disillusionment. Schopenhauer writes, "Every lover will experience a strange disillusionment after the sexual act. What once felt transcendent now feels ordinary. The passion fades. The partner who once seemed divine becomes human. Why? Because the will got what it wanted. Its mission is complete, and you, the individual, are left behind, confused, maybe even betrayed. This explains why marriages built on passion often collapse. The illusion that drew two people together vanishes, and what remains are two individuals who may be deeply incompatible. As the Spanish proverb says, "He who marries for love must live with sorrow." But the suffering goes beyond the morning after. Think of unrequited love, jealousy, obsession. People give up careers, families, sanity. For what? For a goal that was never truly their own. Even the shame we feel around sex is telling. If reproduction were just a beautiful, noble act, why the secrecy? Why the embarrassment? Because deep down, Schopenhauer says, we know we are not in control. We are being used. And in that act, we create a life that if Schopenhauer is right, is doomed to suffer, just as we have. The cycle of suffering. Love as a mirror of the will. If you've followed Schopenhauer this far, you may already sense the larger pattern. Love, like all desireuses, just one variation of the same haunting melody that underlies human life, striving without peace. The will to life is restless. It doesn't want anything in particular. It simply wants. It pushes us forward into longing, attachment, craving, and the moment a desire is fulfilled, it gives rise to the next. If love is the species' strategy, then suffering is the individual's inheritance. Schopenhauer called this the pendulum of human experience. We swing between pain and boredom. Pain when we don't get what we want. Boredom when we do. Love, then, is not an exception to this pattern. It is its sharpest edge. When love is unfulfilled, it causes torment, jealousy, obsession, despair. When love is fulfilled, it often collapses into disillusionment or domestic tedium. Either way, the will wins and the individual loses. And yet, Schopenhauer doesn't ask us to run from this realization in horror. On the contrary, he believes that seeing the truth, however, brutalis, the first act of liberation. When we understand that our suffering is not a personal failing, but a structural feature of existence, when we see that we've been driven, not chosen, something inside us begins to quiet down. The spell breaks. The will loses a little of its grip. And that, Schopenhauer suggests, is the beginning of wisdom. Wisdom after disillusionment. Living with open eyes. What do we do with this knowledge? We don't need to become monks or flee from love entirely. Schopenhauer's message isn't about withdrawal, it's about awareness. He urges us to recognize love for what it is. A beautiful lie told by nature for its own ends. That doesn't mean we must reject love, but we must no longer worship it. We must approach it with open eyes, grounded expectations, and a clear sense of what's truly at stake. Here are some of the key takeaways. 1. Understand the illusion. Love feels personal, but it often serves impersonal ends. Don't confuse the strength of your passion with the strength of your compatibility. 2. Refuse blind sacrifice. Before surrendering your health, your purpose, or your peace for someone, ask, am I choosing this, or am I being chosen by something that doesn't have my best interest in mind? 3. Build on reality, not fantasy. Deep connection can exist, but it requires honesty, not projection. Enduring relationships are not built on passion alone, but on shared truth, respect, and freedom from delusion. 4. Know that suffering has structure. You are not broken because you suffer in love. That suffering is the structure. Knowing that gives you power not to eliminate pain, but to understand and transcend it. 5. Seek stillness, not stimulation. The will thrives on motion, desire, novelty. Peace comes when we begin to still that motion, even just a little, through contemplation, compassion, beauty, and insight. Schopenhauer does not promise happiness, but he offers something else, something deeper, freedom from illusion. And with that comes a quieter kind of joy. Conclusion: love is not about you, but that's where liberation begins. We began this journey with a harsh question. What if love isn't about you at all? What if it's the most elegant illusion in nature's playbook, designed not to fulfill you, but to use you? Schopenhauer says, yes, it is. And that truth hurts until it heals. Because once we strip away the fantasy, we stop playing a rigged game. We stop expecting salvation from a kiss or eternal joy from a wedding vow. We begin to approach love not as a promise, but as a powerful current, one we can respect, even ride, but never mistake for truth. The will to life is cruel. It uses beauty to conceal its hunger. But the moment we see the pattern, we are no longer its slave. We may still feel passion, but now we see it clearly. We may still fall in love, but now we know this isn't about me. This is about life pushing through me. And in that awareness, something sacred can arise. A kind of love born not of need, but of insight, not of lack, but of clarity. This is the painful truth. And in that pain, there is wisdom. And in that wisdom, a freedom far greater than bliss. Outro, call to action, vertical bar, the will to wisdom. If this perspective opened your eye, 7 uncomfortably, don't look away. Philosophical truth isn't always comforting, but it is liberating. What are your thoughts on Schopenhauer's view of love? Have you experienced the illusion and the disillusionment? Let us know in the comments. And if you're drawn to ideas that challenge you, unsettle you, and ultimately free you, subscribe to The Will to Wisdom for more.